Pardon board is back in session. Our next case is going to be Mr. Antoine Thomas. Mr. Thomas, would you please give me your full name and DOC number?
My name is Antoine Thomas. My DOC number is 342366.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. So let me explain our process to you. We're going to conduct a pardon interview with you, and at the appropriate time, we will allow those people who've indicated that they wish to have some input to say what they'd like to say. We allow 3 speakers. You have 4. So I'm going to ask you at this point to tell me which 3 speakers you want to speak. I'll tell you who they are. This Mr. Joseph Landix, Miss Sophie Willis, Inez Page, and Wendy Thomas. One of those 4 witnesses won't be allowed to testify. So which one do you want to scratch?
Oh, you could take Miss Inez Page off.
Okay. Those persons who are here, who are there with you, I think, are willing to speak. Mr. Joseph Landix, I believe, is going to be on Zoom. Miss Sophie Willis is there with you. Miss Inez Page, Miss Mary Fry, Henry Willis, and Lamonic Washington will not speak, but they are there to support you. And Wendy Thomas, your wife, is present and will speak. After we have the interview and after we listen to them talking, you'll have an opportunity to say whatever you'd like to say to the board, and then we'll vote. You understand our procedure?
Yes, sir.
All right, this is the matter of Antoine Thomas, DOC number 342366, date of birth May 14th of 1972. He's a first-class felony offender. He is serving a life sentence on the charge of second-degree murder, having been sentenced on June the 24th of 1994. Mr. Thomas, is that information accurate?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Thomas, your case has been assigned to Ms. Bonnie Jackson. She will begin our interview process. Would you answer any questions she might have?
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Ms. Jackson.
How you doing?
I'm maintaining, humbly maintaining.
Okay. I think that's the whitest T-shirt I've ever seen. Mr. Thomas, let's talk a little bit about your situation. You're 51 years old, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you've been incarcerated approximately 32 years, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So you were 19 when you committed these crimes?
Yes, ma'am.
So tell us who you were at age 19.
At the age of 19, I was a young, wild individual at the time. I was kind of.
Why were you wild? Why were you? I mean, you were young. Why were you wild?
What I meant was that I was young and wild, meaning that I was just on the streets, just partying. It was all about me.
How far did you go in school?
I graduated.
Graduated from high school. What happened after high school? Did you get a job? Go to college? What happened?
Not right off. I started working in Baton Rouge at McDonald's in Baton Rouge in Florida, on Florida Street.
Uh-huh.
But prior to that, I was before all that occurred, I was just out there living day for day, drinking and just hanging out with peoples and stuff.
Were you a drug user?
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of drug?
I was smoking marijuana and snorting heroin from time to time.
And I think I saw in your statement that you started drinking alcohol around the age of 10. Did I see that? Maybe not. Maybe that was someone else I saw. So let's talk about July 2nd of 91, because you were on a rampage on that date. Okay, and we're gonna go through the events of that date, okay, July 2nd of 91. Let's start with Joseph Lee. What happened with Joseph Lee?
That was one of my aunt's boyfriends and whatnot. I was out there, a place where how they call it, back of town, and got in an altercation with a guy, and he was trying to steer me into a way of doing some stuff, and I was telling him, no, I'm gonna do it however I feel like doing it. And me and him started fighting.
Wait. What does all that mean? Trying to get you into something and you wanted to do what the way you wanted to do it?
No, it was like he was telling me that the guys that I was in an altercation with, that I should in other words, he's saying, well, you need to just go ahead and try to go ahead and finish it out with them dudes and fire them now and stuff like that. And I was like, well, no, I'm not gonna mess with those guys unless they mess with me. And so one thing led to another. He started saying some stuff I didn't like, and me and him ended up fighting.
Well, what did you do to him during the fight?
Well, we was fighting, and he put his hand in my mouth, and I bit his hand.
Well, you didn't just bite his hand.
No, this said his finger, I bit his finger off or whatnot, but all that happened in us fighting.
Well, again, you when he ran from you, he went to the police, and his finger was hanging by a piece of skin that you had bitten it off at the first joint. Right?
Well, I guess, ma'am, I don't know. We was just fighting. I don't know what has transpired after he ran.
And then later on, the police got a report. Well, then you left him and you went to your stepfather's house. And what did you do when you got to your stepfather's house?
I went up in there, I was irate, and I started throwing chairs and stuff around the house, and I was telling them about the fight that had transpired between me.
Let me ask you, why were you throwing chairs around his house?
I was under the influence, and I was just irate.
Okay, did you take anything from his house?
Yes, ma'am. I went to his truck and I had took a pistol out of it.
And what else? Did you also take some ammunition?
Ma'am?
Did you also take some bullets?
Well, at the time, they had no bullets in it, so I had took the bullets that wasn't in the gun to put in the gun.
So what were you gonna do with the gun?
Well, I had took the gun because prior to that, when I was back of town, me and this man, Mr. Mitchell, had got an altercation because they had some money differences, and I was asking him about my money, and he came back later on and ran over me. So that's when I had that's why that came about. But the story that you're saying, Ms. Jackson, is going back.
Well, okay. So you went to your stepfather's house. This was after you had to fight with Mr. Lee. You went in this truck, you got the gun and ammunition. And then did you go to West Iberville Street?
West Ibert. That's the street we were staying on.
Okay. Well, they got a report that shots were being fired in the air on West Iberville, and people indicated that you were the one firing shots in the air.
Yes, ma'am.
Why were you doing that?
like again under the influence and loading the gun and just started shooting out of anger and frustration.
Well, yeah, I don't, okay. And then around midnight, you burst into Mr. Hartzell Mitchell's house. Is that correct?
Yes, I went to his house, ma'am.
You didn't just go in his house, you didn't go and knock on the door and they said, oh, come on in. You busted into their house.
I knocked on the door. His mom asked who was it. I said I came to see Hassel. She left and she went to go get Hassel. Hassel came back to the door and Hassel laid there and said, oh my God, me and him started arguing and fussing between the glass door where he was on the other side and I was on one side. I had a pistol in my hand. It was cocked and I was telling him about I wanted my money that he had owed me. So we started fussing. So I busted through the door and that's when the glass in the panel had stuck me in the hand. The gun fell.
Oh, sir. You busted in the door to get in the house, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So they didn't let you in, you kicked in the door, you busted in the house, and you came in the house. And his mother was there.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
you started beating him with the pistol. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And then he ran from where you were beating him into the bedroom, locked the door. You then kicked in the bedroom door. You continued to beat him. You took money out of his wallet and you shot him. Correct?
No, ma'am.
Okay, well, what happened? How did he get shot?
The gun had fell because the gun was cocked and I had dropped the gun. The gun fell, Miss Jackson.
But you,
His mom stated the whole time that she was there throughout his entirety, me and him fighting.
were you beating him with the gun?
I hit him with the gun twice.
And after you beat him with the gun and he got shot, then what happened?
The shot situation, I mean, when the gun fell, because during the time, I ain't know he was shot or not. During the fighting, in the midst of the fighting of him and I, the gun fell out of my hand. Whether the gun go off at the time, I don't know.
Let me just stop you. Being pistol whipped is not fighting.
No, ma'am. I hit him with the pistol twice. But as for just fighting him and just literally shot him, no, that ain't how it happened.
Now, I look at your social history, Mr. Antoine. You were expelled both from high school and the Job Corps for fighting. Isn't that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you, like I said, you claim to have started using alcohol and marijuana at 10 and heroin at 14. As a juvenile, you were arrested for aggravated battery, but you were adjudicated for simple fighting, aggravated assault, and simple battery. And you were sent to the Samaritan House, and you were placed on probation for 18 months. And you were on probation for 5 weeks, and you attacked a teacher and they sent you to LTI. Did that happen?
A teacher, I don't remember a teacher.
Again, maybe it was somebody at the Samaritan House, but they say 5 weeks after being placed on probation, you attacked a teacher, one of his teachers, and was charged with delinquent juvenile simple battery. On December 28th of 1987, you got sentenced to serve 18 months in LTI, and you were held in secure custody from March 1st of 88 until May 23rd of 89. You don't remember what sent you to LTI?
I remember being at the Samaritan House, and
Why did you end up getting sent to LTI?
I thought it was for a battery charge or something like that.
Who?
Man, I can't.
Okay, what I'm trying to get at, Mr. Thomas, you have displayed extreme acts of violence ever since you were a juvenile. Culminated in you killing a man over some money, according to you. But in your application, or maybe it was in your application, you claim that the victim had molested you 2 times when you were a child. That's what you put in your application is the reason for your actions towards Mr. Mitchell.
In my application.
Be fine. I don't make stuff up.
No, ma'am, I don't think that's my application.
Let me look at it again. I'm sure I don't get it wrong.
That's not in my application.
Okay, I'm. What page is that one? I'm gonna go to page 9. Okay, this is your handwriting.
Can't be true.
Well, we'll come back to that. Hopefully my colleagues will help me find that. Because I did make note of that. As I read the files, Mr. Antoine, I write down information that I think is pertinent. And that's one of the things that I wrote down, that you said this happened because of having been the victim of molestation. But when you were interviewed, they asked you, had you ever been mentally, sexually, or physically abused? When they did the pre-parole investigation, your response was no. And so I was trying to figure out why there was discrepancy. So let's move ahead to your prison record. You've only had 12 write-ups, which is a good thing. Your last one was on October 15th of 2015. It was a 30W. What do you want to tell us about that write-up? What was that about?
I was working in the kitchen and it was short on beef stew. And it was the thing back there at Camp F that we was feeding the peoples from the training academy when they come to eat chow. And what happened was that we was running short and we fed everybody, that all the offenders in the camp. And so I substituted a meal to feed the peoples from the training academy because we had ran out of food.
Okay. Page 25.
Yeah, the free, for the clemency investigation. He reported. Thank you.
Okay. So let's talk about some of the programs you've taken. You have taken, Living in Balance, 1 and 2, Cage Array, Victim Awareness, Thinking for a Change, Transactional Analysis, Malachi Dance, Inside Out Dance, members of the Lifers Association. You've been a member of the New Hope AA group in the St. John Baptist Church Brotherhood and Malachi Dance, okay? Okay. I'm just going to read from the pre-parole report. Antoine Thomas reported that Hartzell Mitchell molested him twice in the past and that Hartzell Mitchell was a homosexual. He stated that Hartzell Mitchell offered him money and clothes for sexual favors. Officers spoke to 2 neighbors of Hartzell Mitchell who reported that Antoine Thomas would go to Hartzell Mitchell's house at night 3 to 4 times a week and talk with him. Then Antoine would leave and walk down the street while Hartzell Mitchell would get in his car and pick up Antoine Thomas and they would leave together. This is what you reported. So I'm only reading the information that was provided. Okay. And it may be an uncomfortable topic, but that's what you provided when you did the pre-parole investigation.
That's virtually impossible, Ms. Jackson. I wasn't staying in Louisiana, and I wasn't staying in Franklin at all to have a relationship with this man. I think I pretty much know where that's coming from, though.
Well, it said Antoine Thomas reported. They didn't say it came from anybody else. But again, I'm not gonna go later that. I'm not gonna go later that. So of all the programs you've taken, Mr. Thomas, which ones do you think have had the most impact on you and changed you as a person?
It was victim awareness. It was thinking for a change.
Don't just call them off. I
No.
need to know
Okay.
how they impacted you.
Victim awareness impacted me because, you know, you can't change the things that surround your situation, but you could actually lay there and not have to entertain it. And it's the thing about the things that happens around you, that don't mean that you have to lay there and again have to entertain the things that happens around you. You surround.
But victim awareness is
Victim awareness taught me how to be empathetic towards somebody's grief or loss.
well, let's talk about that. Because Mr. Mitchell's mother was 87 years old when you came into her house and killed her son, basically in her presence. Now think about that. An 87-year-old woman who is totally unable to do anything to help her son, to stop you from beating and shooting her son. She's in the house and she has to watch her son being beaten and shot. So tell me how that must have impacted her.
Yes, I take full responsibility.
And I said, tell me how you think that, how do you think she felt?
She was probably traumatized.
Not probably. And Mr. Mitchell was an only child. And Mr. Mitchell was probably the one she depended on for everything, to take care of her, to be there for her when her health failed. And that was taken away from her.
Yes, ma'am.
You have a good institutional record, your risk is low. I understand you do woodworking. Tell us a little bit about your woodworking.
I build furniture, I build chairs and do cabinets and stuff like that.
And you have a letter from a Paula Pennington de la Breton, who
Yes.
wrote a letter talking about some wooden Christmas ornaments for her yard and the craftsmanship. So apparently you're very good at that. So if you were to be successful, what would be your transition?
Well, I'm real good as in culinary. I'm a real good cook. And also I wouldn't mind helping working with doing some healthcare, a healthcare provider. I'm real good in those two fields.
Or what kind of healthcare providing are you talking about?
People with special needs and whatnot, and people that might need some assistance, like cleaning them or whatnot.
You done any of that in prison?
Yes, ma'am. I do it. I do it regular.
In what capacity?
Wherever I could be needed to use.
Do you work in the infirmary? I mean, where do you do this?
I work for EMS Fire, plus I do volunteer healthcare provider help at the hospital.
Tell me about your work for EMS.
I make sure that the ambulances are stocked, and make sure that I check the oil and check the air pressure for the tanks, and I do the same on the fire side. Make sure that everything is stocked out, ready to go in case of they might have a run or whatnot to go assist somebody else in the other camps or wherever in the prison.
And what do you enjoy about that?
I enjoy it a lot because it give me a sense of actually trying to give back and just to help somebody, to aid in whatever could actually lay down and make sure that they keep everything in order, to make sure that their days could go smooth and they could do whatever they need to do in regards of whoever they have to lay down and serve.
Well, do you have a transition plan in place? Do you have any definite job available for you? Or where would you live? How would you support yourself?
I would support myself by staying with my wife Also, it should have some job employment plans been mailed to the board. I have a couple of friends that have some businesses that would give me a job if needed, and I have a cousin that has a loaning service that's willing to give me a job, to which it should have been mailed to the board as well.
Well, what's your sobriety plan? You say all of this happened on July 2nd into July 3rd because you were under the influence. So,
My sobriety plan is to go to reach for the help, go to AA, NA or RR to seek for the help. Wherever they meet or what have you, I attend the meetings and whatnot.
what did you learn in living in balance?
It teaches you about the triggers, about things could actually tempt you so easily, but not to try to fall back in that same rut that you once was in.
How do you not fall back into that same rut? What do they teach you how to avoid those ruts?
It's a day by day process. I mean, you just got to try to make the right choices, and just use all the tools that you actually learned since you've been incarcerated.
Tell me what some of the tools are. Because let's face it, whenever you're released, whenever that might be, if that ever happens, there's gonna be drugs, alcohol, anything, you could want available to you. And, maintaining sobriety is a lot harder on the outside than it is on the inside. So I need to know, I need to feel comfortable that you have learned some things that you can articulate that could help you when you get in those situations. You go to somebody's house, it's a barbecue, they're gonna have liquor. Family members, friends, they're gonna have liquor. Certain people in your life are gonna have drugs.
Well, I'm not gonna surround myself around the people that I actually been around once upon a time, because my life is a whole different transformation now.
How you gonna avoid your family?
No, I'm not gonna involve my family, but I don't have to indulge in what they do, you see.
That's easy to say when you're sitting here and you don't have any, again, it's so easy. Everybody drinking, everybody eating, everybody having a good time. And you're gonna be the only one sitting there without a drink in your hand.
Well, I don't have a desire for it. I mean, I've been away from it and not doing it for all these years. I really don't have a desire for it. Just knowing the effects that stuff had once upon a time played in my life, and see how it's continued destroying lives out there today. I don't want no part of it. And I understand it's easy to say, being on this side, but I just trust God in everything, Ms. Jackson. I mean, without him, I mean, it won't. I probably wouldn't be. I don't know where I may be this very day, ma'am.
I'll tell you, Mr. Thomas, what I'm concerned about with you. You're quick to get angry. And when you get angry, you tend to act on that anger. And if you combine alcohol and drugs with that anger, then you turn violent. And you're only 51. There's a lot of life and opportunity for you to be in another situation where you lose your temper, you get mad, you want to fight somebody. Somebody says something you don't like. That concerns me.
Well, that was a person that that existed at one time. That person that person who that was one time is no longer me today, Ms. Jackson.
Warren, what can you tell us about Mr. Thomas?
I really don't have anything extra to add. Everything that you say, and that he went over is what I have, all his, programs and stuff.
All right, well, thank you, Ms. Antoine, for talking with me.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Now we'll hear from your supporters. Ms. Wendy Thomas.
Good afternoon. I would like to thank this honorable board today for giving me the chance to speak on behalf of my husband, Antoine Thomas. I have been married to Antoine for 7 years and have been by his side ever since. I would like for the board to know that I strongly support Antoine in every endeavor towards his release. I will continue to be there to make sure he has all the resources that would enable him to make a smooth transition back into society. With me and his family behind him, I know that Antoine will be a great help in building up the community in which we live. He has shown himself to be remorseful for his past actions and has maintained a good work ethic within the prison. Also, he is trusted by his supervisor that he works for. In closing, I would ask the board to give Antoine the opportunity to prove that he can and will be a better person in society. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Now we'll hear from Ms. Sophie Willis.
You have to stand up, man. You can talk from right there.
First, I'd like to thank God Almighty for having the privilege to be here to speak on Antoine's behalf today. And I'm speaking from today on for the young man that I have went up and down highways and byways with his daughter and my family. To raise a child that you have already raised and to watch him come through another change in life by seeing him, the things that you done taught him through the years, come back at you. Not overnight change, but a change, and a good change. He was re-raised by Angola State Prison. He finished raising his daughter from the age of 1 year old until today, 33 years old, who has raised his granddaughter, who is soon coming up on 19 years old, who learned under Papa Burrow Kane, who he didn't just come to prison to get out of things, he learned things while he was here. He learned the value of somebody else's life here. He learned the value of turning yourself around and believing on God for what you need. And if God didn't answer your prayer today, don't give up on him, because he'll never give up on you. So I ask this board if it's possible to let Antoine come and live out the rest of his days at home with me, so that I won't have to have him come look down upon my face one day.
Thank you.
I'm proud of the young man that he is today because of Angola Prison and myself.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Joseph Landix.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Mr. Landix, before you get started, we have your letter. We've read your letter. So everyone has read your letter. So if there's anything else you'd like to add to that, we'd appreciate it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like myself, Mr. Thomas had to lose his life in order to understand the value of life. In addition to his anger issues, I have watched Mr. Thomas calm himself down and maintain discipline. In fact, I would speak on the incident that occurred approximately 15 years ago. In Angola, we live by a certain standard. And unfortunately, as it is, disrespect occurs because of jealousy. I watched an offender accuse Mr. Antoine in his face of being a snitch, a rat, in front of me. And it hurt Mr. Thomas. I watched tears come out of his eyes, but he did not react. He did not respond. He walked away. Later that night, I went and checked on him because he's a good friend of mine. I asked him, how you feel? He said, man, in order for me to become the man that I have to be, I'm going to have to let this go as much as it hurts me. That's why he's before you right now at this very moment. In the Louisiana State Penitentiary, during the times we were there, you don't let one thing slide because an avalanche will follow. But I watched the better man of Mr. Antoine Thomas embrace that harsh remark, turn away, and he only furthered himself and got closer with God as he taught myself and many others. That said, I believe he can control his anger outside of a structured environment, and he can be a productive citizen. I am here to support him by all means as he supported my rehabilitation and my evolution into adulthood. That's all I have to say. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Mr. Thomas, is there anything you'd like to say before the board votes?
I'd like to thank the board for the opportunity today and present myself today. Also, I'm very remorseful for situations that had transpired many years ago. But however, I just, funny as it may sound, I thank for Angola for rebirthing me, to make me the individual I am today, that I could think clearly and better, and I could move forward in life generally as a new man.
Thank you very much, sir. Very good. Okay, Ms. Jack.
All right, Ms. Thomas, I have some concerns about you. Very talked about you. But in spite of those concerns, I am willing to take into consideration what you've done over the last 32 years. You only had 12 write-ups, which is a good, good disciplinary record, particularly someone who came into the prison with so much anger and so much willingness to fight and get into those kinds of activities, but you only had 12 write-ups in 32 years. The last one was in 2015. It was a 30 W. Before then, your last one was in 2009. So you have had a really good disciplinary record. You have taken some good programs. You've acquired some marketable skills. You have, you already had carpentry and heavy equipment skills, but you've also done some work within EMS, and you say you love to cook. I'm willing to take a chance on you, Mr. Thomas. And so my vote would be to recommend a commutation of 99 years for the council.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Mr. Roche?
Mr. Chairman, my vote is the same for the same reason.
Mr. Freeman?
My vote is also the same for the same reasons. Keep that temper in check.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Thomas, I agree with my colleagues. My vote would be likewise the same. So we will recommend to the governor that he commute your sentence to 99 years. Well, good luck to you.
Thank you, sir. Glory be to God. Let Ms. Rose know.
I will.